I'm Deborah Simmons, and I thought I'd seen it all. At 52, life had taught me plenty, but nothing could have prepared me for the day I walked into my younger sister Lila's wedding. I had mixed feelings, to be honest. Lila's always been the carefree one, the fun one, the one who never took anything too seriously. Me? I've spent years putting my career first, raising my daughter Simone, and keeping everything together after my divorce from Raymond. So, when Lila asked me to be there, I agreed, hoping it would bring us closer. The ceremony started, and I was happy for her, or at least I wanted to be. But as I watched from my seat, my heart began to race when I saw Raymond sitting front and center, right next to Lila. The way he held her hand. Something didn't sit right. My mind started piecing things together, slowly but surely. I watched as Lila and Raymond exchanged glances, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. My ex-husband wasn't just here for the wedding. No, he was more than that. He was with Lila, and not just for this day. But for years, a chill ran down my spine. How long had this been going on? And why hadn't I seen it? How had I missed this? My sister and my ex-husband? How had I been so blind? Looking back, it's hard to believe how different everything was back then. Raymond and we were once so in love. I was just 25 when we got married, young and full of dreams. I thought we were building something strong. We had our home, our plans, and eventually, our beautiful daughter Simone. But Lila? She was always there, wasn't she? The life of every party, the one with the wild ideas, always laughing, always pulling us into her whirlwind of adventures. She was the sister everyone loved to be around, and she never seemed to worry about anything. I remember thinking I needed her in my life. She brought a sense of excitement to balance my more serious nature. I focused on work, raising Simone, keeping things together. I thought Raymond and I had it all. But that's where I was wrong. The cracks started showing a few years after Simone was born. I'd come home from a long day at work, tired and stressed, and Raymond would be sitting there, distant, withdrawn. It wasn't the same. He wasn't the man I married. We stopped talking about anything that mattered. I tried to make sense of it, but all he'd say was, "I'm just tired, Deb." And then there was Lila. She started coming over more. I didn't think anything of it at first. I was happy to have her around, thinking that maybe she could help me ease the pressure. But she didn't just keep me company. She kept Raymond company, too. It wasn't long before I noticed the subtle things, the late-night phone calls, the way they'd exchange glances when I wasn't looking, the way Lila always seemed to be around when Raymond pulled away from me. I kept brushing it off, telling myself it was nothing. But deep down I knew. I knew something wasn't right. I would sit alone, late at night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself when things changed. Was it me? Was I not enough? I had been so focused on keeping our family together that I didn't see the signs. Raymond, the man I loved and trusted, had checked out of our marriage long before I realized it, and Lila, my own sister. I always defended her, always thought the best of her, even when she was reckless. She was my sister, my family, but I never imagined she could do something like this to me. How long had this been going on? Were they ever truly a family to begin with? All these years, I built my life on what I thought was solid ground. I worked hard to make sure Simone had everything she needed, that we could make it through anything. But now looking back, I see it so clearly. My whole life was built on a false sense of security. I thought I knew who Raymond was. I thought I knew my sister. But I didn't. The ceremony was beautiful, or at least it was supposed to be. Lila was radiant in her white dress, looking every bit the bride she always dreamed she'd be. There was a sweetness to it all, until Raymond stood up to make his vows. At first I thought he was just going through the motions, like any ex-husband would. But then he looked straight at Lila with those eyes, the same eyes he used to look at me with when we first met. And he spoke. "I've loved you for years, Lila," he said, his voice so full of emotion. "Not just as a sister-in-law, but as the woman who completes me. I've spent so much time hiding it, but today I want the world to know. I'm so grateful to have you by my side." It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. My heart slammed against my chest, my breath caught in my throat. I looked around, half expecting someone to laugh or tell him to stop. But no one did. The room was silent, except for Lila's soft sobs and Raymond's voice continuing to profess his love for her. It hit me then, harder than I could have imagined. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had been having an affair with my husband all these years. Not only had they betrayed me, but now they were doing it in front of everyone. In front of our family. In front of my daughter, Simone was next to me in a heartbeat, her arms around me, trying to hold me up. I could feel her discomfort, her anger, but also the hurt she tried to hide. "Mom, are you okay? Let's go." "We don't have to be here," she whispered, her voice shaking, but I couldn't move. I felt frozen, humiliated, like I was exposed for everyone to see. Here I was, supposed to be celebrating my sister's happiness, but I couldn't stop the tears from coming. My family was looking at me. They were watching me, some with pity, others with confusion. They must have wondered how long I knew, what I was going to do, what I was feeling. But none of that mattered in the moment. Raymond and Lila stood there, holding hands, the world around them oblivious to the storm they'd just created. My mind was racing. Should I scream? Should I walk out of the church and never look back? Should I confront them in front of everyone? But the thought of doing that, of making it even more public, made my stomach turn. I wasn't sure I had the strength to expose this betrayal in front of everyone who had gathered to celebrate. Instead, I stood there, feeling the weight of every emotion I'd been trying to ignore for years. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. I wanted to run, but I was frozen in place. All I could do was watch as my whole life crumbled around me, as the love I'd fought so hard to hold on to shattered into 1,000 pieces. I needed time to think, time to breathe. The wedding had ended, but my world felt like it had just begun to fall apart. The ride back to my childhood home was long and silent. I couldn't even bring myself to speak, not to Simone, not to anyone. It was like a weight had settled on my chest, making it hard to even breathe. I parked the car in front of the house and just sat there for a while, staring at the front door like I was waiting for some answer to appear. Simone didn't speak much either. She didn't have to. I could feel her anger swirling in the air, even though she hadn't said a word. After everything, after all the years of me pouring myself into our family, of keeping it together despite the cracks in our foundation, my daughter was angry, not just at Raymond and Lila, but at me. And I knew it. When we stepped inside, she didn't waste any time. "Mom, how could you let this happen? How could you not see what was going on?" Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence like a knife. I felt every word like a slap to the face, but I didn't know how to answer. How could I explain to her that I had spent so many years trying to hold everything together, trying to keep the family from falling apart, that I didn't even see the cracks beneath the surface? I didn't know," I said weakly, my voice trembling. "I never saw it. I trusted your aunt. I trusted Raymond. I never thought—" But she wasn't having it. "Don't you get it, Mom?" She threw her hands up in frustration. "You were so focused on everything else, so focused on holding it all together, that you didn't see what was right in front of you. And now, because of that, I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know who to trust." Her words stung like nothing I'd ever felt before. I had always been her rock, the one who protected her from the messes in the world. But now, I was the one who had failed her. Simone turned away, and I could hear her footsteps retreating to her room. I knew she was hurt, but a part of me felt like I was the one who had been abandoned. The next few days were a blur. I didn't leave the house much. I spent most of my time alone, trying to make sense of the chaos that had upended my entire life. But things only got worse when family members started reaching out. Calls came in from people I hadn't spoken to in years, some of them offering support, while others were just trying to make sense of it all. Some were sympathetic, of course. My cousin Monica called, and I could hear the pain in her voice. "I'm so sorry, Deborah. I can't believe this. But you know, I've always known Lila was a little reckless. I didn't want to say anything, but now, this is just too much." But then there were others, like my Aunt Karen, who couldn't hide her judgment. Deborah, honey, I don't know what to say. But I always thought Raymond wasn't right for you. I never liked the way he was with Lila, even back then. Maybe you should have seen the signs too. I could feel my anger building with each passing conversation. They were all so quick to take sides. Some sided with Lila, brushing off the affair like it was no big deal. Raymond and Lila were always close, they said. Maybe it was just meant to be. I wanted to scream. To remind them that it wasn't just about Raymond and Lila, it was about me. It was about the years of trust and love I had given them both. How could they just gloss over that? Family dinners became awkward, silent affairs. Some of my relatives even started reaching out to Lila and Raymond, acting like nothing had happened, while others wouldn't return my calls. I could feel the walls closing in on me. No one knew what to say or how to fix what was broken. And as for Simone, things were worse than I could have imagined. She stayed distant, not just from Lila, but from me too. The rift between us was growing, and I didn't know how to fix it. She blamed me for not seeing what was happening with Raymond and Lila, and I couldn't blame her for that. She had every right to be angry, but it hurt in ways I never expected. I thought the worst part would be losing Raymond, but I was wrong. It was the way my family had fractured. The way Simone, my own daughter, felt like I had failed her too. My heart ached every time I saw the distance between us grow. Every time she looked at me like I wasn't the woman who raised her, who loved her unconditionally. But I knew that I had to find a way to heal, for her, for myself. I just didn't know how. I spent days, maybe even weeks, hiding from the world. At first I just needed some space, time to breathe. But as the days passed, it became something more. I found myself holed up in the quiet of my childhood home, alone with my thoughts. I could still hear the echoes of that day, Lila's wedding, Raymond's confession. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. Lila's smile, Raymond's tear-filled eyes. The pain hit me like a wave every time I remembered. It wasn't just about them betraying me. It was about the years I had spent loving them, trusting them, thinking that my family was my safe place. Now, it felt like all of that had been a lie. I sat by the window, watching the leaves fall from the old oak tree in the yard. They seemed to drift, weightless, free. That's how I wanted to feel, but I didn't. The weight of betrayal kept me grounded. How could my sister, my own sister, do this to me? And Raymond, the man I married, the man I spent years building a life with, the father of my daughter, how could he? I thought back to the early days of our marriage. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I remember the way his eyes would light up when he came home, the sound of his laugh filling our living room. I remember the way he would hold me at night, as if I was the only one who mattered. I used to think that love could conquer anything, that we could make it through the hard times together. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. The nights got longer, the silence in the house louder. And Lila, she always seemed to be there. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was my younger sister, always carefree, always full of life. But then it became clear that she was more than just a sister to Raymond. She was there to fill the void I didn't even realize existed. Now, sitting in that quiet house, I couldn't help but wonder how long it had been going on. How many times had I turned a blind eye, thinking everything was fine? How many times had I ignored the signs? I could hear the whispers in my head, the accusations that I had failed somehow, that I had allowed it all to happen. But then there was this small, lingering part of me, the part of me that still loved Raymond despite everything. I didn't want to. I didn't want to feel that way. He had destroyed everything. But the truth was, I still remembered how it felt when we were good. I still remembered the man I fell in love with. Could I forgive him? I didn't know. It seemed impossible. The thought of looking him in the eye again made my stomach turn. But then, a small voice inside whispered, maybe forgiveness is the only way forward. Maybe it's the only way to heal. And then there was Simone, my beautiful daughter. The one person who had always been my rock. She had every right to be angry with me, but I couldn't help but feel the sting of her disappointment. She blamed me for not seeing the truth sooner. She thought I had failed her, And part of me feared she was right. I wanted to make it right with her. I wanted to show her that I was still her mother, that I still loved her, that I hadn't abandoned her. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the anger I felt. I wanted to get back at Lila, to make her feel the hurt that she had caused me. I wanted to stand up in front of everyone and expose the lies, the deceit. I wanted to make her pay for what she had done to me. But if I did that, I would lose Simone forever. I knew it. She would never forgive me for tearing her family apart. It felt like a choice between healing and revenge, between doing what was right for me and doing what was right for Simone. I spent sleepless nights thinking about it, torn between two choices. What if I chose to heal? What if I found a way to forgive, not for them, but for myself? Could I ever truly forgive Lila and Raymond, knowing how deeply they had hurt me? Could I find a way to move on without losing my daughter in the process? I didn't have the answers. I only had the ache in my heart and the fear that no matter what I chose, something, maybe everything, would be lost. I had been avoiding this moment for days, weeks even. The pain of it all, the betrayal, the confusion, kept me frozen. But I couldn't run from it forever. I called Lila, asking her to meet me. I didn't know what I was going to say to her, but I knew I needed answers. The sun was setting when she arrived. I had invited her to a quiet cafe, away from the prying eyes of family. My hands were shaking as I stirred my coffee, the coldness of the cup doing little to calm me. She walked in, her usual carefree smile plastered across her face. It made me sick. How could she still smile after what she had done? I stood up as she approached, her eyes widening as she saw the look on my face. "Deborah," she said, her voice calm, almost too calm. "You wanted to talk?" "Yeah, I wanted to talk," I said, my voice sharp, though my heart felt like it was being crushed with every word. "How could you do this to me, Lila? To us?" Her smile faltered for a moment before she took a deep breath. "I never wanted to hurt you, Deb, but Raymond and we've always had a connection. You don't understand, but it's real. We love each other. You have to know that. Love?" I almost choked on the word. "You've always had a connection, Lila. What about the years we spent together? What about my family? You knew how much I trusted you. I trusted you both." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, I thought she might finally show some remorse. But then she shook her head. "It's not like that, Deb. I never meant for it to happen. But sometimes feelings they just happen. You can't control them." I stared at her dumbfounded. "Feelings? Is that what you're telling me? After everything, that's your excuse?" She didn't say anything, and I could see the guilt in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to undo the damage, to fix what she had broken. "You've betrayed me in a way I can never forgive, Lila," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You didn't just take Raymond from me. You took my family. You've destroyed everything." She opened her mouth, but before she could say another word, Raymond walked in. I hadn't expected him, but I could see the hesitation in his step as soon as he saw me. He looked guilty, but it was too late for apologies. "I know you're angry, Deborah," Raymond said, his voice quieter than I remembered. "And I deserve that. I've been a coward, avoiding you. But I'm sorry. I am." I could barely breathe, the words coming out of his mouth slicing through me. "Sorry?" I repeated, the word almost mocking in my ears. "You left me for her, Raymond. You ruined our family and now you think an apology fixes it? You're not sorry. You're only sorry because you got caught." His face fell, but I didn't care. "No," I said, standing up, my voice firm. "You're no longer part of my life. Don't come to me with apologies. I don't need them. Not from you." And then, as if on cue, Simone entered the cafe. She'd been quiet through all of this. So quiet, so distant. But today was different. Today my daughter walked up to Lila and Raymond, her eyes full of fire. "You think you can justify this?" Simone said, her voice shaking with anger. "You think this is something we're just supposed to accept? You've hurt my mother, Lila, and you've hurt our whole family." Lila opened her mouth, but Simone didn't let her speak. "No, you're selfish and you're wrong. This is not love. This is greed. And it's not something I'm going to let slide." Her words hit harder than anything I could have said. Simone had been holding it all in, but now she was standing up for me, for us, in a way I had never expected. And then, in that moment, something shifted inside of me. I didn't need Lila's approval. I didn't need Raymond's forgiveness. I didn't need anyone's validation. For the first time, I realized that I had the power to define my own happiness. Not them. Not anyone else. Simone stood by me, her hand in mine. We were stronger than we had been before. We would move forward together, leaving Lila and Raymond and all the pain they caused behind us. The days that followed felt like a blur. I knew I had to make a choice. I could keep holding on to the hurt, keep living in the shadow of what Lila and Raymond had done to me, or I could let it go and move forward. I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to do that, but I had to try. I remember the day I finally sat down with Simone. We were in my living room, the sun just starting to set, casting a soft glow through the windows. It was one of those quiet, peaceful moments that had become rare in the chaos of everything that had happened. Simone sat across from me, her eyes full of questions and worry, as if she wasn't sure where we stood anymore. "Mom, I don't understand how you can forgive them," she said, her voice shaky, her hurt still raw. "After everything they've done, don't they deserve to be punished?" I looked at her, feeling that familiar pain in my chest. I had been torn about the same thing. Forgiveness felt impossible. But I had learned over the years that holding on to bitterness only hurt me in the end. "I know it's hard, Simone," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "But forgiveness, it's not for them. It's for me. I can't keep letting their actions control my life. I have to let go, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve peace." She looked at me, her brows furrowing. "But it hurts so much, Mom. How do you just let it go?" I took a deep breath, my heart heavy. "It doesn't happen overnight, baby. It takes time, and it's not about forgetting what they did. It's about choosing not to let it define me anymore. I've spent too many years putting everyone else's needs before mine, thinking that I had to hold everything together. But now, I'm learning to put myself first." Simone's eyes softened, and for the first time in a long while, I saw the understanding in her gaze. She wasn't just my daughter anymore. She was my ally, my partner in this journey. "I get it, Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I've been holding on to my anger too, but I don't want to lose you." I reached out, pulling her into a tight hug. "You won't lose me, Simone, not ever. We're in this together." In that moment, I realized how far I had come. The woman I was before all this, before Lila, before Raymond, was someone who let others walk all over her, someone who didn't know her own worth. But now I was someone different, someone stronger, someone who had learned to stand up for herself, to take control of her own life. For so long, I had let the actions of others define who I was. But I had changed. I had learned to value myself, to put my own needs first, and to heal on my own terms. It wasn't just about moving on from Lila and Raymond. It was about moving forward into the next chapter of my life, one where I could finally be the woman I was meant to be. As Simone and I sat together, holding on to each other, I knew that this was the start of something new. Something healing, something empowering. We had a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. I felt ready, and that was all that mattered. It was time to reclaim my power. As I stood outside the family home, staring at the place that had once held so many memories, I felt a deep sense of both loss and liberation. The house still looked the same, weathered by time, yet standing strong. But everything inside me had changed. The pain from the betrayal still lingered like an old scar, but it no longer controlled me. I had come to realize something important. I was stronger than I thought. I had survived the worst, and now I was finally free. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be days when I'd still feel the weight of what had happened, but I was no longer the woman who let others define her. I had learned to choose myself, to heal, and to move forward with purpose. That's when the idea hit me. I needed to do something to help other women who had faced similar betrayals. I thought about all the women who, like me, had been broken by the actions of others. Women who needed someone to help them rediscover their own strength. And just like that, I knew what I had to do. I would start a community program for women who had experienced loss and betrayal, helping them find their own path to healing. It would be a place of empowerment, where we could lift each other up, share our stories, and build new lives from the ashes of the past. As I walked away from that house, leaving the past behind, I felt a new sense of peace. I was no longer burdened by my old life. I was stepping into the future, ready for whatever it held, with newfound confidence and hope. A new beginning was waiting for me, and I was ready to embrace it. I've been through so much, and if you're watching this, I know you might have faced your own struggles too. But I want you to know, no matter how deep the hurt, there's always a way to heal and start fresh. If you're ready to take that step with me, I'd love for you to join this journey. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Together, we can reclaim our power and move forward with strength. Let's start this new chapter together.